Robert Quinn fits there very nicely. 3-4 there in Houston right now, and Robert Quinn dropping back to, standing up and rushing the passer. I think that could be very good for that team. Mukamara, I'm surprised he's still on the board personally. I think he's a top 10 player. I do think San Francisco will target him, but, he's still on the board. He could drop to a team that desperately needs a quarterback and a couple picks. But, I like Quinn going to Houston. It's a good pick.
Shane?
Yeah, I think it all depends on the medical here, is if what's happening with Quinn and the brain injury from high school, has he been medically cleared by the Texans doctors? Maybe some teams no, maybe some teams yes. If Houston's one of the yes teams, then I think it's a very, very real possibility at 11. I'd just be very surprised if Mukamara is there if they do pass. McLean said it, but this secondary was just that atrocious. Kareem Jackson probably more number 2 than a number 1, or Mukamara could be a number 1, but he keeps falling like this, then someone's going to get a steal with this player. But I really like Quinn coming off the edge, and it's a huge, huge need. They need someone opposite Connor Barwin there for the Texans, and Barwin isn't even a sure thing. So I really do like that pick.
Well, and one way to improve a pass defense is to not let the quarterback get rid of the ball. So you can look at that way, too. It's kind of a what comes first, the chicken or the egg scenario, maybe. So I definitely would not be surprised or have any problems with pick up stretch, because I believe outside linebacker is every bit as big of a need as cornerback for them. So I don't think they can go wrong there at number 11. And if they were able to swing a trade to move up for Von Miller or Patrick Peterson, then all the better. I'm up next with the Minnesota Vikings, which happens to be my hometown team here. And I've said in the past I'm not a diehard Vikings fan or anything, but I certainly follow them closer than most by virtue of living in the state. And if I were running the Vikings, I would take Jake Locker here, and then I'd bring in Don McNabb to be the bridge for a year or two, and let Jake Locker develop. And maybe in 2012, 2013, I think you're going to have a great quarterback, but I don't think the Vikings are going to go that route. They're not taking my calls with my advice for some reason, so I think they're going to go defensive line here, and they're going to have a lot of options, and they could use either an end or a tackle. They're probably going to lose Ray Edwards as a free agent, and also Pat Williams looks like he's probably done. So I wouldn't be surprised if they seriously consider Corey Legit from Illinois, but I'm going to go Daquan Bowers out of Clemson here. I think Minnesota is one of these teams that hasn't been afraid to take chances. They did this actually more than a few years now, but when Kadechi Udeza was coming out, he had a shoulder injury leading up to the draft that concerned some teams, and he dropped a little bit. The Vikings stopped his fall. Obviously, in the long run, that didn't work out, but they've also taken chances on Randy Moss. They've taken chances on Percy Harvin. So I think they're going to go with Bowers. I think they'll take that chance if they stay here. If Prince Mukamara is available, I think they have to consider him as well. But I think probably either a defensive end, whether it be Daquan Bowers or someone else, or Corey Legit. But I'm going to go Daquan Bowers here. I think they take that chance. Stuber?
Yeah, I think with Jake Locker on the board, you mentioned it. I think quarterback is something they have to consider if Locker's there. Personally, I don't think he will be, but yeah, I think that has to be a possibility. Daquan Bowers, what was it, a couple months ago, we're talking about him possibly being the number 1 overall pick. So it's, the knee injury is, depending on how serious that knee injury is and the medical and how teams rank it and rate him on the board, that's yet to be determined. But, it's a quality pick if he checks out medically. Also, I think Cam Jordan's off the board here. I think Cam Jordan, realistically, this will probably be a spot where he's going to fall into. J.J. Watt may also be an intriguing pick, too. But I do like to pick Daquan Bowers. I think defensive end is a position that they should go after.
Shane?
Yeah, I like the pick, too. This seems like a Vikings type of move. They don't get the QB. Then Daquan Bowers seems like a Vikings pick. That they love to take that chance. Rick Spielman, the general manager there, is definitely not afraid of medical issues. He's shown that in the past, and it's something he's stated on the record. And both in free agency and the draft, he'll take that risk and go with the high upside to grab a player like Bowers, who might be a top 5 talent, getting him to 12 and kind of hoping for the best. And if Bowers reaches his potential to be kind of that standard 8 to 10 sack a year guy, a nice run stuffer with great closing speed across from Jared Allen, and for another year or two with the Williams wall still there, that's just a really, really nasty defensive line. So I could easily see this happening.
And Brandon?
Yeah, quarterback is such a need. I think if Jake Locker is there, they're nabbing him or looking to move back at least. Again, this is a team that that there's nothing there. There's the well is dry, and I think again they have a bunch of offensive weapons and know when to get the ball down the field. Joe Webb is not the answer at this point, and he has a long way to go. Hell of an athlete, but he needs to develop into a quarterback, and he's not ready. So again, this is one of those teams I think it's possible they could trade up for a quarterback or trade back down. But DeQuan Bowers would be next on my list for sure. I scouted him up plenty for the Broncos, and the medical really scares me. His pro day really scared me. He looked very tight, and he just didn't move well. But I'll tell you what, you turn on the tape, and the kid is just impressive. If he can recover from the injury and get back to 100%, this is an impact player for sure, and I don't think that they can miss with him as long as they have a contingency plan for the quarterback, because Joe Webb isn't getting it done.
All right, up next we have Stuber at number 13 with Detroit. And Chris, am I correct to assume that the Lions representative just ran a 4.240 on his way to the podium?
He ran a 3.8. I mean, geez, Prince Amukamara at the pick, man. If this ever happens, if this happened in real life in 2 days, 48 hours from now, Detroit, Motown's going crazy that night, because Amukamara, pairing him with his old teammate and Dominican Sue, that's phenomenal. So yeah, Amukamara here.
Shane?
Oh man, slam dunk, because I think they may even trade up for Amukamara or Patrick Peterson, one of these corners. It is just a huge need for the Detroit Lions, and I've seen a lot of mocks have them take a defensive end. I feel like their defensive line's in a good state right now. They do need another pass rusher, maybe from a linebacker position, but I think corner is really where that's lacking. I think they have a strong pass rush. If they get a top-flight corner like Amukamara, like Patrick Peterson in there that can keep a QB hesitant for half a second or another second, how this defense really has such huge potential, and the offense is already there. I feel like this top-flight corner could just change the Lions franchise a lot, and this is a great pick at 13. I really think they should think about moving up to get one of these two guys.
Brandon, thoughts on the Lions' dream scenario, Prince Amukamara falling into their laps?
The most obvious pick thus far in the draft, in my opinion. You have the pressure down the middle. You have the pass rush. You don't have anyone to cover the receivers, and they just got ate up because of it. It's the one hole in their defense, and I would say that, again, just like you guys said, it would be a damn party in Motown, because Prince Amukamara is exactly who they want to pull in up there.
And if Amukamara isn't there, I wouldn't be surprised if the Lions went with Jimmy Smith either. And the Lions are another team I think could be a possibility for DeQuan Bowers. I think they could take a chance on him. They could use another defensive end to complement Vanden Bosch, who isn't getting any younger and has had some injuries in his past. So there's a couple other things to watch out for, but if Amukamara is there, the discussion is over. Next up, Shane with number 14 in the St. Louis Rams.
Well, the wide receivers are off the board, so your typical Julio Jones, the St. Louis pick, is not going to happen here. For me, I think it's between two players, and Steve Spagnuolo last year got his quarterback in Sam Bradford. I think if he has the ability to go offense again and get a weapon on the offense, he will. None are available here, so I think he's going to get a fun toy that he can play with on that defense and that defensive line. Now, the question for me becomes, you take the better value with Aldon Smith out of Missouri, higher upside, redshirt sophomore, put him in at defensive end, see if he can become an elite pass rusher. Or a player that I really think they may target is Corey Legit, defensive tackle out of Illinois. I think he's being heavily underrated by a lot of the media, and not a lot of people are keying in to really how talented this player is and how close he is to a Nick Fairley type of prospect. So I think 14 would not be too high for him. That being said, if Aldon Smith is still on the board, I would be hard-pressed to see them pass on such a good pass rusher that can stand up from the linebacker spot, put his hand down and play D-end. So versatile and a great fit for this scheme. So I'm going to go with Aldon Smith, defensive end out of Missouri.
Well, Shane, as you know, I've been a big Aldon Smith fan for quite some time, and I think he'd be a great fit in Steve Spagnuolo's defense. I think there's some similarities there with Justin Tuck in terms of his ability to move around the line and play a number of different roles. And we all know Steve Spagnuolo's philosophy is to pressure the quarterback with that defensive line. So I definitely think they're going to be looking for either an end or a tackle here. I'm not so sure it won't be legit, though. I think that's probably the way I would lean if I were doing my final mock draft right now. I've heard them link to him, and they could certainly use a guy who can get after the quarterback on the interior. So I agree. But either way, I don't think they could go wrong with either Aldon Smith or legit. Stuber?
Yeah, they can go a lot of different ways here. The Rams don't, they needed a wide receiver. Julio Jones would be the dream sequence. Aldon Smith being the local kid, that would be a popular pick amongst the people there and the fans for the Rams. Corey Legit, I'm not as high on Corey Legit as a lot of people. I'm one of those media guys who underrate him. But again, that seems to be a consensus or maybe even a popular pick for the Rams. A guy that I would even also take a look at here is J.J. Watt. He can move inside, he can go outside. Being on that line with Chris Long, I think you free him up a little bit. They played alongside each other, opposite each other. I think that would be an intriguing selection. I like J.J. Watt's motor. I like his ability to make plays in the backfield. I think he could be an impact type of player. I know a lot of guys like him a little bit more in the 3-4, but I think he has that scheme, versatility to where he can play wherever, and he could be an impact player at the next level. But I do like Aldon Smith. I think he could develop better into a 3-4 rush end, but because with more development, still being a young kid, he has that frame. He could add more bulk to his frame. But it's a good pick.
And Brandon, your thoughts?
Yeah, I like it. I think it's good. I really think that if Julio Jones is gone, Corey Legit is the pick. Again, watching him on tape, I just like what he brings. I think that he's a Spags type of guy, but man, the athleticism from Smith is pretty incredible. He passes the eyeball test, looks, ridiculous getting off the bus. This dude has just a freakish body, and I think that probably Spagnuolo would be tickled to have him in there rushing the passer.
And Brandon, we're going to stick with you for the next pick, the Miami Dolphins at 15, and I'm interested to see what you're going to do because I think this is going to be one of the tougher picks to project in the first round potentially. And I know when I work on my final mock, I'm going to have to make some phone calls and try to get a read on their plans. So, what do you think?
Well, I think I'm probably gonna throw you guys a bit of a curveball here. Mark Ingram's the safe pick. A lot of people projected that, but in talking to some people that are in the know around Dolphin Land, I just don't think it's the pick. I'm a huge Crimson Tide fan, and basically have watched his stock drop dramatically in the last couple of weeks, and I just don't think Ingram's going there. Quarterback is the next biggest need. They've courted Mallet heavily. I don't really know that that's going to happen either. I think maybe they're a little scared of Mallet, as everyone is. So I'm going to throw everyone a curveball here, and the courting over the last few days has been pretty open, and there's been a lot of buzz about it. But I'm going to go ahead and select Pouncey there and toss him in on that line that's a little rough around the edges and shore stuff up a bit.
Well, and I have no arguments with that pick. I think it makes sense. They had serious issues on the interior of the line last year at both center and guard, and Pouncey is capable of playing either, so that would definitely plug a hole. And Tony Sperano is an offensive line coach, and there's some pressure in that organization for them to turn things around here. I don't know how long of a leash some of those people in that organization are on. I think the general manager has a little more leeway, but another season like last year, and this coaching staff could be looking for a job. So I think Mike Pouncey makes a lot of sense. Stuber, what do you think?
Yeah, I can't disagree with Mike Pouncey going there. It's an absolute need to improve that interior line. Pouncey can play guard or center. I'm just intrigued with Ryan Mallett here. I think there's a lot of talk about Mallett down there. Obviously, the fans are intrigued by Mallett with all the talk, and the fact that the Dolphins brought him in 4 different times to check him out, talk with him, make sure everything checks out okay. There's obviously some interest there. They don't have a second-round pick. So, they have to get a quarterback here. So I would favor Mallett, but I can't argue with Pouncey. I know what you're talking about there, but I think Mallett, I think there's more than just a smokescreen there with him.
Shane, what do you think?